Imagine a presence so absolute that even the mightiest of angels, Michael the warrior and Lucifer, the brilliant light bearer, stepped aside in silence. This was not an angel who brought news of hope or warnings of doom. He never raised a sword in battle nor sang in heavenly choirs. His mission was far more final. When he appeared, stories ended, not with a clash, but with a whisper. They called him Azrael, the angel of death. For centuries, his name has stirred both fear and fascination. Legends describe him as the silent hand of God, the one who closes the last page of every life. Some traditions say he can remove a soul with a single breath, while others claim the soul knows instinctively when he arrives that its time is over. And yet, unlike the Grim Reaper from Western art, Azrael's essence is far more profound than a figure draped in black. He is not chaos. He is order. He is not cruelty. He is necessity. But who is Azrael really? Is he a destroyer, a guardian, or something beyond our imagination? Why did even Michael and Lucifer, two of the greatest celestial beings, respect him so deeply? And perhaps the most unsettling question, what does his story reveal about us? Today, we go beyond the myths and into the mystery. We will uncover Azrael's origins, explore the weight of his role, and discover why his silence might teach us the loudest lesson about life itself. Along the way, we'll challenge old ideas, draw parallels between ancient texts and modern thought, and confront the question, no one escapes what happens when the angel of death finally comes for us. This is not just a story about the end, it's a story about meaning, choice, and the eternal cycle of existence. Welcome to the untold journey of the scariest angel who ever lived, and why understanding him might change the way you see life forever. Chapter 1, Before Death Existed. Long before the first breath of man, before time ticked its first second, the universe was drenched in stillness. There was no grief, no sorrow, no shadow of mortality. Creation was pure and broken, a song without an ending. In this beginning, there was no such thing as death. The concept simply did not exist because life itself had not yet begun. This perfect symmetry would not last forever. According to ancient scriptures, the first man, Adam, was formed from the very dust of the earth and placed in Eden, a paradise beyond imagination. Eden was a sanctuary untouched by decay or disease, a realm without clocks, without graves, without farewells. Life was not something to be measured, it was eternal by design. There were no reminders of endings because endings were not part of creation's vocabulary. But the story of existence changed with a single act. When Adam and Eve reached for the forbidden fruit, they weren't just disobeying a divine command, they were introducing something that had never existed before: imperfection. That one choice cracked the mirror of immortality, and through that fracture seeped something irreversible: sin. And with sin came the one consequence that would define every generation to follow: death. Think about this for a moment. Death wasn't always a law of nature. It was not part of the original blueprint. It entered like a shadow, creeping across sunlight, altering the destiny of everything living. From that moment onward, every birth carried a hidden truth that it would end. Yet here lies a profound question. Why did the Creator allow death to exist at all? Couldn't he have erased the flaw, restored perfection, and left humanity untouched by endings? Some theologians argue that death was never intended as a curse, but as a mercy, a reset, a doorway rather than a wall. If life were endless in a broken world, corruption would stretch into eternity. Death then was not chaos, it was control. It placed boundaries on suffering and opened a path toward redemption. Before death existed, there was no fear, but there was also no urgency. Without the ticking clock, choices carried no weight, love no cost, and time no value. Mortality changed everything. It made moments precious. It gave meaning to beginnings because now they were finite. And this is the paradox we live with today. We fear death, yet without it, life would lose its sharpness, its edge, its purpose. But when this new reality entered the fabric of existence, a challenge emerged. If death now existed, someone had to govern it. Someone had to stand at the threshold between what is and what comes after. That responsibility could not belong to just any angel. It required a being who could bear the weight of every ending without faltering, without pride, without hesitation. It demanded strength not of the sword but of obedience, a strength that does not waver when faced with tears, pleas, or pain. Thus began the search for the one who would become the keeper of the final hour. Chapter 2, Azrael's origin story. When the weight of mortality entered creation, a new responsibility emerged, one that no angel had ever carried before. Death was not an accident, it was a system, and like all systems, it needed order. Someone had to govern the threshold between life and what lies beyond. But who could bear such an unthinkable burden? The Creator set a test. According to ancient traditions, God commanded his angels to descend to the earth and gather its dust. This dust would be the foundation for the first human body, a vessel for the soul that would experience both life and death. But the mission was more than physical. It was symbolic, a way to see which angel could obey, even when obedience meant defying compassion. One by one, the mightiest archangels stepped forward. Michael, the warrior of heaven, renowned for his courage in battle, descended first. Yet when he approached the earth, the ground spoke. The soil pleaded, "Do not take from me. I am the home of future generations. Do not wound me." Michael, moved by mercy, returned empty-handed. Then Gabriel, the great messenger, took his turn. He too came near, but when the earth cried, his heart softened. He withdrew, unable to complete the command. Some say Raphael and Azrael also tried, only to falter for the same reason. Each angel, bound by compassion, could not bring themselves to harm what would one day cradle life. Then came Azrael. At this point, Azrael was not the angel of death. He was simply one among countless celestial beings, a silent, faithful servant. When the command reached him, he did not hesitate. He descended to earth, and as he reached out to gather the dust, the ground trembled and pleaded. Legends say the earth wept, begging him to leave it untouched. Some traditions claim Azrael answered softly, "What is taken will return." Others say he remained silent, offering no comfort, no explanation, only obedience. And so he took the dust. In that moment, something irreversible happened. Azrael succeeded where every other angel faltered. It was not strength of arm that set him apart, but strength of will, a devotion so complete that even the cries of creation could not sway him. He returned to the Creator with the dust, and with that act, the framework for humanity and mortality was laid. Why did this single act matter so much? Because it revealed what Azrael was capable of: unwavering obedience in the face of impossible emotion. He did what others could not. That day, the heavens witnessed a truth that even Michael and Gabriel had not shown. That ultimate strength lies not in force or beauty, but in the ability to do what must be done no matter how heavy the burden. For this reason, God chose Azrael for a role unlike any other. From that moment, he became Malak al-Maut, the angel of death. His task was monumental, to guide every soul from its first breath to its final exhale and beyond. Not just kings and prophets, but every life that would ever walk the earth. His jurisdiction would cover not one nation, not one age, but all of history. Azrael's new mission was not to punish or to judge. He did not write the hour of death. He simply delivered it. This distinction is crucial. In a world where angels like Michael lead battles and Gabriel delivers revelation, Azrael's authority lies in the certainty of his purpose. He moves only when commanded. He takes no soul early, no soul late. His timing is flawless because it is not his own, it is divine. This obedience elevated Azrael beyond any warrior's glory. Michael could defeat armies, Gabriel could shake empires with a single message. But Azrael, he held the silence that could end worlds. His power was not measured in force, but in finality. That is why even the most radiant of angels feared him, not because he was cruel, but because his presence meant one thing: the story was over. And so Azrael stepped into his new identity, not as a destroyer, but as a gatekeeper. His duty was and remains not to bring chaos, but to maintain balance. Without him, existence would spiral into endless decay. With him, the cycle of life could turn as it was designed to. Yet even as we admire his obedience, a question lingers. Did Azrael feel the weight of what he had accepted? Did silence shield him from sorrow? We may never know. But one thing is certain: when he carried that dust, he carried the destiny of every living soul. Chapter 3, the weight of his role. From the moment Azrael accepted the dust, his identity transformed. He was no longer one angel among millions. He was the singular figure who would stand at the boundary between life and eternity. His mission was not a temporary appointment, but an eternal mandate, an unending duty that would outlast empires, prophets, and even the rise and fall of worlds. To understand the gravity of this role, we must first recognize its paradox. Azrael is both the most feared and the most misunderstood of all celestial beings. People imagine him as a destroyer, yet he is not a warrior. He does not initiate chaos, nor does he wage war. He does not strike down armies or flood nations. His task is far simpler and far heavier. He waits, he watches, and when the command comes, he moves with perfect precision. Unlike Michael, whose heroism is sung in stories of battle, or Gabriel, whose voice echoes through revelations, Azrael's work is silent. There are no trumpets for his arrival, no hymns in his honor. He comes without warning and without spectacle, because his mission does not belong to the drama of life, it belongs to its closure. That very silence is what makes his presence so profound. When Azrael appears, there are no second chances, no negotiation. The story ends and the final chapter begins. This is why even the greatest angels feared him, not because Azrael was cruel, but because his very being symbolized certainty. He represented something even Michael's sword could not stop, and Gabriel's words could not delay the inevitability of the end. When Azrael approached, even celestial choirs grew quiet. It was not his authority that humbled them. It was what his presence meant: completion. But this authority carries a staggering weight. Imagine bearing the responsibility for every soul that has ever drawn breath. Kings and beggars, saints and sinners, warriors and poets, all of them pass through the hands of Azrael. From the first heartbeat to the last sigh, his role touches every life without exception. His reach spans the entire earth, across every age, every language, every nation. No throne, no empire, no name escapes his scroll. And yet his power is bound not by his will, but by obedience. This is the defining feature of Azrael's existence. Unlike Lucifer, who rebelled, and even unlike Michael, who fights Azrael, acts only when commanded. He writes no destinies, chooses no victims, and bends no timelines. He is the executor of a plan he did not design. This obedience makes him both formidable and strangely humble. His strength lies in surrender, a quality that human beings often misunderstand as weakness, yet in Azrael it becomes his greatest weapon. The weight of his role is not just logistical, it is emotional, at least in the way we perceive it. Imagine witnessing the grief of every family, the fear of every soul, the silence after every heartbeat, and carrying it for millennia. Does Azrael feel this sorrow? The texts do not say. Perhaps his nature shields him from such burdens. Or perhaps this is the ultimate cost of his assignment, to bear the collective twilight of creation without faltering. And still he is more than an angel of endings. Azrael is a keeper of balance. Without him, life would become an unbroken chain of suffering, stretching endlessly through time. His presence ensures that corruption, decay, and injustice do not reign forever. Death through Azrael becomes not a punishment, but a mercy, a door rather than a wall. In this sense, Azrael is not the enemy of life, but its guardian, ensuring that the story, however painful, does not spiral into chaos. This perspective changes everything. The angel of death is not a villain lurking in shadows, but a sentinel who guards the sacred rhythm of existence. Without endings, beginnings would lose meaning. Without Azrael, eternity would not be paradise, it would be a prison. Chapter 4, The Fear and the Form. If Azrael's authority commanded respect, his appearance inspired awe and fear. For unlike Michael or Gabriel, who are often imagined as majestic yet familiar, Azrael defies all human categories. His form is not bound by symmetry or beauty. It is something vaster, more elemental shape to match the scale of his mission. And when the ancient texts attempt to describe him, their words strain under the weight of imagination. According to Islamic traditions, Azrael is a being of incomprehensible magnitude. Some narrations claim he possesses 4 faces, each gazing toward a different direction, north, south, east, and west. Why 4 faces? The symbolism is clear. He sees everything. No corner of the earth escapes his gaze, no soul passes unnoticed. While other angels appear and vanish, limited to a place and moment, Azrael is present everywhere, always a living horizon of awareness. But the faces are only the beginning. Ancient scholars wrote that Azrael has 4,000 wings, wings that are not delicate or feathered, like in art, but immense, stretching across the realms. Some are said to shine with light wings of grace for the righteous, carrying them into peace. Others are jagged, forged of iron rods and hooks designed to seize those marked by rebellion. These wings embody duality, mercy, and judgment. For Azrael is not a figure of blind terror. He reflects the truth of each soul. And then comes the most chilling detail: his body is covered with eyes and tongues. Each eye watches a life. Each tongue speaks its name. These are not ornaments, they are connections, living links between Azrael and the souls he oversees. As long as a person lives, their eye and tongue remain. When death comes, they vanish, leaving an empty space on his body. Imagine the shifting of his form with every birth and every death. A cosmic body that pulses with the heartbeat of humanity. If this seems overwhelming, it is meant to be. Azrael's appearance is not random. It is a message. His very being declares no life is hidden, no ending unnoticed. In an age obsessed with control, this reality unsettles us. We build walls, empires, and technologies to resist mortality, yet Azrael embodies the truth we cannot escape. Death is universal, impartial, absolute. But the fear of Azrael is not only about size or strangeness, it is about what he represents. When he comes, the world stills. There are stories in mystical texts of the heavens falling silent when Azrael moves. Choirs cease their hymns, warrior angels lower their swords, and even the bearers of the throne bow in reverence. Why? Because his presence signals completion. He does not belong to the chaos of war, the melody of creation. He belongs to the last note, the final stroke. And yet Azrael does not always appear in terror. Here lies one of the most profound truths about him: he is not fixed. Unlike Michael or Gabriel, whose forms remain consistent, Azrael's appearance mirrors the soul he comes to claim. To the righteous, he is peace, gentle, radiant, even beautiful. Traditions describe prophets and saints greeted by Azrael in forms of light, offering words of comfort, not fear. For them, death is not a thief, but a doorway, and Azrael is its guardian. But for the corrupt, the cruel, the unrepentant, his face becomes the sum of their dread. He arrives as a storm of darkness, his grip like chains of iron, his presence suffocating. Some accounts speak of sinners feeling their souls torn away, not lifted, as if every resistance of their life echoes in that final moment. Azrael does not invent this terror, he reflects it. He is a mirror, and what the soul gave to the world returns in its encounter with him. This duality, gentleness, and severity is the essence of Azrael's mystery. He is not arbitrary. He is justice wrapped in silence, inevitability clothed in mercy. And perhaps that is what makes him terrifying, not cruelty, but clarity. Azrael does not negotiate. He does not delay. When the command comes, he arrives and the story ends, not with chaos, but with certainty. Even his dominion over death deepens the fear. Some ancient texts claim that when God created death, he revealed it before the angels, and its sight was so overwhelming that they fainted for 1,000 years. And yet Azrael was chosen to hold his power to master it. Some mystics even say he became death itself, not a servant following its shadow, but the shadow's source. If that is true, then Azrael is more than an angel. He is the embodiment of finality. This is why his form cannot be soft, cannot be simple. It must be vast enough to span time, strong enough to carry every ending, and mutable enough to reflect every soul. Azrael is not beautiful by human standards because his beauty is not meant for our eyes, it is meant for eternity. Chapter 5: Azrael in Dreams, Poetry and Culture. For most people, Azrael exists in scripture and legend, a figure mentioned in sacred texts, invoked at funerals, and feared in moments of silence. Yet his presence reaches beyond theology. Across centuries, poets, mystics, and artists have sought to capture the essence of the angel of death, and in doing so, they reveal something extraordinary. The world does not see Azrael as a simple monster. Instead, he becomes a mirror for humanity's deepest questions about life and its inevitable end. In Islamic mysticism, Azrael often appears in visions and dreams, not always as a terrifying entity, but as a guide. Stories tell of saints and poets who encountered him in their final days. Rumi, the great Sufi poet, described death as a wedding night, the soul's union with the divine. For him, Azrael was not an enemy, but a friend, the messenger who escorts the lover to the beloved. When the soul leaves the body, Rumi wrote, "It does not fall, it rises." In this imagery, Azrael becomes an agent of liberation, not destruction. Another mystic, Nasser Khusraw, spoke of dreams where Azrael appeared with gentle certainty, a reminder that the hour was near. These encounters were not threats. They were calls to prepare to reconcile with the eternal truth. Through such accounts, we see a profound reversal of fear. The closer one walks with God, the less terrifying Azrael becomes. He is still the end, but the end is not always darkness. Poetry and literature beyond the Islamic world also embrace Azrael's name. In the 19th century, Western poets like Henry Wadsworth Longfellow depicted him not as a grim specter, but as a solemn, almost tender figure. In The Reaper and the Flowers, Azrael is imagined as a quiet reaper who does not destroy but gathers, gently removing flowers from a field to replant them in a better garden. This metaphor shifts the narrative from terror to transformation. Death is not annihilation, but transplanting. Even modern culture carries echoes of his myth. From novels to films, Azrael appears as both villain and guardian, proof that the archetype of the Deathbringer endures. In popular media, his image sometimes blends with the Grim Reaper, a hooded skeleton with a scythe, yet the essence differs. The Grim Reaper is often portrayed as sinister, almost gleeful in his harvest. Azrael, by contrast, serves without malice or pride. He acts not from choice, but from command. He is not a thief of life, he is a keeper of its design. Curiously, even humor and pop culture have borrowed his name. In the 1980s cartoon, The Smurfs, the villain Gargamel named his cat Azrael, perhaps unknowingly nodding to an ancient symbol of inevitability. This juxtaposition, a sacred name in a playful setting, shows how deeply Azrael's myth has seeped into cultural memory. His name still carries a shadow even when placed in light-hearted frames. Why does Azrael inspire so many interpretations? Fear, reverence, even comfort. Because he personifies the greatest paradox of existence, the end that makes life meaningful. For philosophers and mystics, Azrael is not merely a character, but an idea, a way to grapple with mortality without despair. In dreams and poetry, in art, he shifts from terror to tenderness, from a figure of dread to a messenger of peace. And perhaps that is his truest form, not the monstrous visage described in lore, nor the gentle reaper of romantic verse, but both. For Azrael reflects us, our fears, our hopes, in the lens through which we see the inevitable. To some, he is the executioner. To others, the escort. To all, he is the certainty no empire, no machine, no man can escape. Chapter 6. Lessons for today. As the story of Azrael spans across millennia from sacred texts to poetry, one question remains. Why does this ancient figure still matter in the 21st century, in an era dominated by science, technology, and the promise of immortality through innovation? Why should we look to the angel of death for wisdom? The answer lies in the truths Azrael embodies, truths that have not changed even as civilizations rise and fall. 1. Death gives life its meaning. In a world where time feels infinite, where digital footprints outlast our physical presence, it is easy to forget that life is fragile. But mortality is not a flaw in the system. It is the frame that gives the picture of existence its sharpness. Imagine a story with no ending. Would it still be compelling? The value of every chapter depends on its finiteness. Without death, love loses urgency, choices lose weight, and time becomes cheap. Azrael reminds us that endings are what make beginnings precious. The presence of death pushes us to live intentionally, to speak the words we withhold, to forgive while there is still time. In this sense, Azrael is not only the keeper of endings, but the silent architect of meaning. His shadow falls on every moment, not to darken it, but to define it. 2. Control is an illusion. Modern society worships control. We schedule every hour, monitor every heartbeat, store our memories in digital clouds, and dream of technologies that promise immortality. Yet in the end, Azrael stands as a truth that no algorithm, no empire, no innovation can override. Death does not negotiate with progress. This truth can terrify or liberate. Terrify because it reminds us of limits. Liberate because it frees us from the tyranny of control. Once we accept that some things lie beyond our grasp, we can focus on what truly matters, not clinging to permanence, but cherishing presence. 3. Mercy hidden in mortality. It is easy to see death as cruel, but what if, as many theologians suggest, it is mercy disguised? Imagine a broken world without endings, a life where pain and injustice stretch endlessly. Death then is not chaos, it is balance. It ensures that corruption does not reign forever, that suffering does not echo without pause. Azrael's role reminds us that every closing door might also be an opening, a passage, not a prison. 4. The mirror of our choices. One of the most haunting ideas in the tradition surrounding Azrael is this: he appears differently to each soul. To some he comes as peace, to others as terror. This imagery reflects an uncomfortable truth. Death does not create what we are. It reveals it. The life we live shapes the face we meet at the end. What does this mean for us today? It means our choices matter not in some abstract afterlife alone, but in the quality of our final moments. Do we live in alignment with our values? Do we reconcile before it is too late? Azrael's mirror forces us to ask, who will I be when time runs out? 5. The conversations we avoid. Despite its inevitability, death remains the great unspoken. We build industries around denying it, cosmetics to defy age surgeries, to rewrite time, even digital avatars to simulate immortality. Yet silence does not erase reality. What would happen if, instead of fearing death as an intruder, we accepted it as part of life's design? Cultures that embrace this truth often live with deeper gratitude and less anxiety. Hospice workers often say something profound. Talking about death is talking about life. In that sense, Azrael is not just the angel who ends stories. He is the voice inviting us to tell ours fully before the final page. A final lesson: presence over permanence. If there is one truth Azrael presses upon the human heart, it is this: do not live as if you have forever. We measure success by accumulation, yet nothing accumulated crosses the threshold Azrael guards. What remains? Not wealth, not accolades, but the echoes of love, kindness, and meaning. In the end, permanence is an illusion, but presence, the conscious act of living fully now, is real. Azrael's story is not about terror, it is about truth. It whispers through every era. You cannot outwit mortality, but you can outlive fear. When the time comes, the question is not whether Azrael will arrive, he will, but whether we will have lived so that his presence feels less like a thief and more like a guide. So perhaps the most radical thing we can do in a death-denying age is not to fight the inevitable, but to embrace the finite, to live, love, and give as if every breath matters. Because it does. And when Azrael knocks, whether in shadow or in light, we will not tremble. We will recognize him not as an enemy, but as the last teacher we ever meet. And so we close this journey not with fear, but with clarity. Azrael, the angel of death, is more than a shadow in Scripture. He is a reminder woven into the fabric of life. His presence is not about endings alone, but about awakening us to the weight of every beginning. We live in an age racing toward immortality, yet forgetting what makes life meaningful, its fragility. Azrael stands as the truth. We cannot outpace the final threshold that asks a simple question. Did you live well? Not perfectly, but fully. Did you love fiercely, forgive freely, and use your fleeting time for what endures? Perhaps that is why this figure still matters. He is not here to steal our days, but to sharpen them, to remind us that eternity is not promised, but today is. So let this not be a story you just heard. Let it be an invitation. Speak what you've held back. Start what you've delayed. Live not as if death is distant, but as if life is now. Thank you for walking through this mystery with us. If it stirred something in you, share your thoughts below. How do you see Azrael now, fearsome, merciful, or both? Until next time, keep your eyes on what matters most, because in the end, that is all that will remain.